Hello, and welcome to ProductCon New York. It's amazing to be back here. I remember when I hosted the first conference at New York, like 7 years ago, and we keep going. So let's keep it up. Product School and product partners. Some of you might have seen multiple logos at the booth and be wondering like, what is this? Well, let me explain. Today, I'm very excited to announce the launch of our new company, Product Partners, an AI consulting firm to help product teams drive successful AI transformation. It's born from Product School. I didn't leave Product School. Let me explain. I started Product School 12 years ago in Silicon Valley, which has become the global leader in AI training for builders. And while Product School continues to serve individuals through its AI training programs, Product Partners is a natural extension to help entire product teams at large enterprises navigate AI transformation through training and implementation. Same shared mission, to help companies build better products. And in case you are wondering, yes, I'll be running both companies as CEO. And yes, we'll keep hosting ProductCon 3 times a year in New York, San Francisco, and London. This is the place where we bring the entire product leadership community together. Product Partners is not your typical consulting firm. And the reason why I couldn't help myself but start these companies because I fundamentally believe that the way traditional consulting firms operate is broken when it comes to AI transformation. Most of those traditional firms will define the strategy of a company and put together a beautiful implementation plan that looks fantastic on a PowerPoint, but they'll probably leave the building even before the implementation starts. We're not like that. Here is how we're different. We're builders, not just strategists. We embed our AI product leaders and forward-deployed engineers alongside your team to actually build. The deliverable is not just a deck that never leaves the shelf. It's actually a working AI operating model and a team that is ready to harness it. We also focus exclusively on product teams. What I mean by that is product managers, designers, and engineers. We take a very specific approach. We understand the nuances of product teams, which makes us be very unique as opposed to taking a more generalist approach to try to serve the entire company. And we have the strongest reputation in product. For over 12 years, we've upskilled over 1,400 product teams around the world, and we've built the largest community for product professionals with over 2 million members. So today's presentation is about unpacking what are the top AI native product teams doing to actually thrive in AI. How have they successfully managed to navigate AI transformation? And I think it's important to clarify what I mean by AI native. It's a term that we throw around, but it's not always well defined. To me, AI native is one team that defaults to AI as the primary way to get work done. Defaulting to AI first does not mean that AI solves everything alone without humans. It means AI is the starting point. Humans step in for judgment, creativity, accountability, or when AI hits its limit. As a result, AI native teams are dramatically more efficient because humans can focus on high leverage work. These are what the winners look like. These are some of the executives behind the most successful AI native product teams. For example, the CEO of Figma, CPO at Slack, VPs of product at Shopify, Robinhood, Rippling, and Vercel. Just to be clear, none of these companies were born AI native. They all had to transform in record time and at a massive scale. And I'm grateful to have had access to those executives. They've made massive contributions to Product School as ProductCon speakers, the Product Podcast guests, and Product School instructors for our courses. To me, the best way to learn something is not just being talented at it, putting in the work consistently, it's also having access to the best of the best at it, so you can accelerate your learning. And that unique access to world-class AI product builders and our track record in product training is what we bring to product teams that we support with AI trainings and implementations. I'm sure you've always seen this type of perfectly exponential curves that show how you start on the left and suddenly you're going to end up on the top right quadrant. The path to AI native seems like that, but it's not like that. There's a huge messy middle that is very hard to untangle. The winners I showed you before represent the top 1%. However, over 80% of the product teams are still stuck in level 1. They've got CEO commitment, they've got some of the AI tools, and even some of the individual productivity gains. However, those gains are not directly correlated to meaningful business outcomes. That's what I call the messy middle. The real path to becoming AI native looks more like a J curve than a perfect exponential curve. And the reason why I say this is because individual productivity can give you that sense of power. You achieve a magical experience with AI, but that declines as you try to set up the system to collaborate with teams. That's what I call the false summit. And that's where most of the companies get stuck. The longer you sit on that false summit at the end of level 1, the bigger the opportunity cost. So what are those top 1% AI native companies doing? How did they actually navigate that messy middle to come out on top? Well, they built an AI operating model. This is the absolute key for those companies to ignite their AI transformation. The AI operating model is the engine that executes your strategy. Virtually, all companies have an AI strategy at this point. That's the input. But the real differentiator is building a strong operating model to close the gap between strategy and execution. That's how you actually see meaningful ROI from your AI investments. To make this even more tangible, if you break down an AI operating model into two, the two core components are the system and people. The system is the shared workspace, preloaded with the right agents, the tool integrations, the company data, relevant content, guardrails, and other workflows. So anyone can start building immediately without worrying about configuring their own isolated setup. The other component is people. People is the org design, the training, and the change management. How is the team structured? What are the skills that the team needs in order to harness the system? As well as what are they aligned, what are the incentives, and how are those incentives aligned from top to bottom to drive a successful change management? In summary, you need both the system as the engine and the people as the driver of that engine to work in tandem. So I'm going to take it one step further and show you very specific initiatives that some of those top 1% companies executed successfully to actually navigate that transformation. And my hope is that you can take what works best for your company and hopefully adapt it to your own context. Let's start with the people, as it's always at the heart of any transformation. Product managers as builders. I'm sure you're going to hear this term a lot today. It's happening, it's real, it's not a joke. Product managers starting to think that they can replace designers and engineers. Engineers think they can replace designers and product managers. Nobody knows who's going to replace who, but the point is that there's always going to be someone in the middle called the builder who's definitely going to be able to do more than one job. And your job is to be that builder, so you can actually come out on top. As a fun fact, many companies, both large and small, like Meta, are already using the term builder in their job descriptions. The second initiative is the move we're seeing from 2 pizza pots to 2 slice pots. I'm sure you're familiar with the quote from Jeff Bezos. He said something along the lines of like, if you cannot feed your team with just 2 pizzas, your team is probably too big. Well, I don't think that's longer true. Now, you don't need more than a pizza. The ratio between PM and engineer is getting closer to 1-to-1. Those pots are much smaller. And sure, you have agents, so technically you can have more impact, but the agents do not eat pizza. They eat tokens. That's such a bad dad joke, but I had to do it. The third initiative is people managers as player coaches. So as we compress management layers, we're also seeing that the baseline expectation for those people managers is to act as player coaches. They definitely need to build the same way they expect the individual contributor builders to build. And this is a formula that I use with all my people managers. They have 4 variables. And what I'm trying to represent with this is that as a people manager who's also acting as a player coach, you need to have a little bit of all of those variables. Because if one of those variables is 0, the end result is going to be 0. So by producer, I mean actually builder / individual contributor / get shit done. The expert part is domain expertise. You really need to understand customer, industry, and now AI, or at least develop enough curiosity to lead with AI, to make sure that you are leading with example and the team also wants to continue leveraging AI as an AI native team. Leader, to me, means influencing others and applying the right judgment. And manager is getting work leverage through people and agents. Last but not least, AI training. This one is dear to my heart as that's the core offering of Product School. Especially over the last 2 years, we've been developing a lot of live trainings on the key AI skills required for the next generation of builders. Talking about AI product strategy, vibe coding, agentic orchestration, AI evals, product sense, and even context engineering. The whole point here is that even though things are changing, you can't just use that as an excuse. You need to get on it, build, ship. And that's actually the same mindset we are applying to our own company. In fact, we figured out how to create a feedback loop that allows us to update the content every few months instead of having to wait for even quarters. That is the specific initiatives that these AI native companies are doing with regards to people component. Now I'm going to switch gears and talk about the system component. The initiative number 1 is the cross-functional AI team. There's a lot of debate in companies around, should we have a chief AI officer? Who is actually going to drive this transformation? The approach we've seen work best is to create a very small AI transformation team that is the core. This team is going to go pod by pod, team by team, driving that transformation. And by transformation, I mean the implementation of the tools and the systems, the connectors, the plumbing across LLMs, the data knowledge, the workflows, everything in between. They are also going to manage the enablement of the people as well as the change management. However, they cannot do this alone. They also need to partner with functional champions. These are people who are early believers in AI, who might not be part of the core AI transformation team, but they are going to build on top and provide the feedback so this core team can continue improving and prioritizing the roadmap the right way. The second initiative is around the SaaS consolidation. It's incredible to see how these companies are able to consolidate a lot of their internal tooling. And the general rule of thumb is you're able to consolidate up to 66% of your tools if you take the right approach. I've seen 3 buckets. Bucket number 1, usually quick wins here, is identifying the tools that are not being used enough by your team or point solutions that are being covered by a more broader solution, in which case you can just stop using the tool and there's not even a need to replace it. The other third of the buckets here is more about the tools that need to be replaced for another tool, but that tool needs to be more AI native in 2 ways. 1 has to cover a broader scope, and 2, it has to have the right MCP connectors, proper APIs, so they can better integrate with other tools as you create more workflows. And the third bucket are the tools that can be easily replaced by in-house solutions. If the switching cost is low, sometimes it makes sense to just vibe code your own solution and not have to worry about paying more licenses. So the intent is not just to save money, it's to use the new tools as a forcing function for the AI team to drive better integration between the different systems. Could be Jira, could be Linear, could be Slack, could be Microsoft Teams, could be Salesforce, you name it. You just want smallest possible number of tools, highly integrated through MCPs, well-defined APIs, and CLIs, so data can flow even if that data is unstructured. The third initiative is around the agents having team-level visibility, and this one is fun. Agents can now be used by the entire team through tools like Slack, the same way they would communicate with humans. The core idea here is that there is a shared workspace that is fully pre-configured with the right agents, with the tool integrations, with the company data, with skills, and all the automation workflows. So anyone can jump in without having to worry about any individual setup, and they can interact with agents the same way they would be interacting with a human. Of course, this workspace also includes key security controls, such as access policies, cost limit, and human-in-the-loop oversight. But just think about it, how much this integration can drive the adoption for an entire company. You don't need to be a hacker to suddenly start using AI the right way. And by the way, we have the CPO of Slack joining us later today, who is going to do an incredible demo on very cool use cases on how to integrate Slack with your tool stack. And the last one is around shipping democratization. In large enterprises, I'm sure you're familiar with the term PDLC, SDLC, product development lifecycle, software development lifecycle. Those tend to be separate frameworks loosely tied by slow manual handoffs. Well, now that's being consolidated into just one framework. And the reason why is because before, product managers used to be mostly involved in the planning phase, and then engineers would be involved in the shipping and the review phase. They were kind of silos. Well, now with an AI native model, everyone can be part of every step. So what we are seeing is that product managers and designers can express requirements in a natural language process. They can interact with wireframes, and the agents can take those inputs and create the draft of a pull request. They can skip multiple states and suddenly be part of the shipping process. Of course, in order to prevent technical debt or other security issues, we want the code review to be strictly managed by human engineering guardrails. So this can be well verified before it goes into production. But just the concept of it collapses the cycle by a lot and allows teams to actually act like builders instead of just siloed people pushing information from one side to the other. In summary, these are the initiatives that the top 1% AI native teams were able to successfully execute to build their AI native operating model. We have 4 related to people, such as product managers as builders, the movement from a 2-pizza to a 2-slide pod, the people managers as player coaches, as well as the AI training. System-wise, we have the cross-functional AI team to drive the transformation in collaboration with the functional champions. We have the SaaS consolidation, the agents as a team-level visibility platform, as well as the shipping democratization. So, assuming that you've executed some of those initiatives, this is when you will be able to start getting real business outcomes as a result. And just to clarify, I'm not a big fan of AI adoption as a way to define success. I think it's a weak metric because it doesn't really correlate to business value. The same way token usage isn't a good metric either because it can easily be gained. So to me, the best way to actually measure the value generated for the business is to stick to the classic metrics such as shipping velocity, customer satisfaction, revenue growth. And just to give you some example of specific outcomes that these companies were able to achieve, got up to 5x increase in the development speed. That's massive. Imagine how much that compounds. 40% higher feature adoption and customer retention in key areas for those AI features that were shipped. And then ultimately lower cost. I think we also need to address the elephant in the room, and the lower cost is real, as some companies are finding more adjustments on the OpEx side when the teams are smaller and higher impact. So for years, Product School has upskilled thousands of product teams at large enterprises. You can see examples of incredible companies in the financial sector, healthcare, or even retail. And while training is a critical part of any transformation, we're now able to provide an end-to-end solution to include other services such as implementation. Speaking of implementation, we also partner with some of the best AI tools to help companies actually adopt the best way to use AI. I'm talking about Replit, OpenAI, Lovable, Gamma, Bolt, Linear, Granola. Those are incredible tools. And I know for some of you, you are restricted to just Microsoft Copilot. And I'm sorry for you. But I have good news. We're tool agnostic, which means that we can work with Microsoft Copilot as well as other tools that you need to keep. But the point here is there is a better way of building, and there are maybe ways we can find quick wins so the team can be enabled to build by themselves. The goal is to help you build the right AI operating model for your team. We're not incentivized to push any particular tool or drive token usage from certain LLMs. So to celebrate the launch of Product Partners with you today, we're offering a free AI assessment for qualifying companies in this room. The AI assessment is the first step we take in any AI transformation engagement, and it's worth at least $20,000. We partner closely with your product leadership team to dive deep into your current AI strategy, systems, the people, and the outcomes. And within just 2 weeks, we'll have a clear picture on what is the highest value AI opportunities for you, and most importantly, a realistic, actionable plan to build the next iteration of your AI operating model. So to apply, please visit productpartners.com/AI and mention ProductCon New York. Thank you very much.